the CEO Ben Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. It's been a while, and we want to start the journey from knowing you, Peter. Who is Peter Mzora, in a nutshell?
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a finance professional. I cut my teeth earlier on in my career in finance and business analysis. I love building things from the ground up. It's kind of a passion, some would say an addiction. But that's what makes us who we are.
All right. Now, if we're going to try and take you down to ancestry and the belonging, are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that makes you Ugandan? Which part of this country do you hail from?
Yes, I'm a Ugandan, born and raised, born in Kampala, but originally from Kazo district. That's our family background. Went to school here, King's College, 6 years, and then proceeded for further studies abroad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter, we want to know from you, if somebody finds you on the street and asks you a question, are you Ugandan? And probably your question would be yes, and sometimes very intriguing, and most times you want to give somebody a punch because that's their question of your identity, of your ancestry. But then they throw in another question, says, what makes a Ugandan if you want? What are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
I think some of the values that define us as Ugandans is tenacity, for one. You find the average Ugandan runs, he has his core job and then he has like 2 jobs on the side. That's born out of necessity to survive, right?
Yeah.
We always want more. That's who we really are.
Okay.
So yes, I would rank that as being a qualifying character for Ugandans. Friendliness, openness, as you know, a willingness to interact, try new things. We're generally young population, so we're always looking out for what's next, or what's the next best thing.
Okay.
So that really defines us, yeah.
Wow. Peter, welcome to the show. Like I already said, the CEO bench exists, to basically drive us into the life that we want to be in the corporate world, but also from our private businesses or from, being employed in the corporate world. Whichever side of the coin one finds themselves in, it requires that we have a leadership skill. And today on this show, we are basically focusing on leadership, change management, and transformation. And I would like to take you straight to this question. In today's rapidly very changing world, learning to lead our organization and ourselves, to read the turbulence that comes with the challenges, requires that we become very creative.
Yes.
And as such, critical thinking is part of the ability for a person to make very deep and meaningful decisions that either positively impact people or they negatively impact people. This show focuses on people like you who are on the rise to the top and those who are already on the top. We want to learn from you. Leadership is about inspiration, influence, encouraging people, finding a direction for people, and leading people to the top, and sustaining the course. And John Maxwell often say that anyone can steer the ship, but it will always take a leader to chart the course. And you're on the bench because you've been charting the course for a while, and we want to take you through that journey so that you can share a little bit more so that we can, get people out there who are fans and are followers and the viewers of the program to learn a thing or two from you. So I'll start from the point of journey of Peter Mzora. From school, did you ever see yourself being who you are today?
Well, I'm not certain if anyone can ever really see that far ahead. We all have plans, but life comes in, or the Lord above comes in and he has his own plans.
Yeah.
All you can do is adjust your sails accordingly. So for me, I always thought I would continue with a career in finance. That was my background, and that has not quite been the case. I found that I really had a passion for starting and scaling businesses. So I took that finance learning, that capacity to analyze a business, and also added on other aspects, operations management, branding, that kind of thing. so that I could try and make myself an all-round leader.
Okay. And Peter, many times we have our dreams when we are still young. And sometimes mentorship management comes in place where parents mentor their children to be where they want them to be, and they tend to push them to that direction going forward. Was that the case? Did you follow your father's footsteps or your mother's footsteps? What happened? Or you said, this is what I want to do?
Well, my late dad never really pushed me in any given direction. He did push me to be excellent in anything I did, right from the jump. For him, having graduation parties was not a thing, because that you were expected to graduate.
That's my man right there. That's my man right there.
You know, graduation was the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the kind of guy he was. Excellence in all fields,
Yes.
physically and spiritually, and also in your schoolwork.
Yeah.
But he allowed me to take the direction that I best wanted, or that I was best suited. So yes, my parents were big influences in my life. My mom, of course, is a serial entrepreneur, talented real estate developer. So I've learned a lot from her. I still do. Our conversations are always insightful. She has a way she can see the market that is always interesting. So yes, they've been big influences in my life.
Wow. Peter, leadership. Let's dive into it. What is your understanding of leadership? First of all, what is leadership by your definition, and what is your understanding of leadership?
I think leadership is the capacity to make difficult decisions. I think it's the ability to see where you can add value, not just where your skill set lies, but where the areas that are lacking that you can plug in. It's the ability to inspire other people to go forward and achieve a common cause, not necessarily you dragging them along and saying, oh, I did this. It has to be a collective effort. And lastly, it has to be a real leader, you have to have left your team in a better position than you found them. For me, if I step away from a business and it thrives, that's a sign that I've done something good. The business should not be dependent on me to survive.
Wow. You are quite very young for you to have that kind of mindset or a frame of mind to think in that particular direction. Are you a leader yourself?
I try to be. The concept of leadership applies in multiple spheres, right? So you can be a leader in a family setting, you can be a leader in a work setting, you can be a leader in a sports setting. So in every aspect that I find myself, I generally try to add value, generally try to improve the lives of others, and I believe that that's what makes you a leader. So yes.
Wow. And if you're joining us from anywhere in the world, we are talking to Peter Muzora on the CEO bench, the man who is young, on the rise to the top, and the journey to the top is what we're talking about. And we're talking about leadership, change management, and transformation. If you have a question or comment, please drop it up there, and we will definitely be able to read it and answer it with Peter right here on the show. Peter, that said about leadership, what has been your leadership journey to where you are?
So I started my career in the US on a trading floor. I was certainly not a leader, but I was around leaders, certainly. I was around gentlemen who had been there and done it all. So I watched and I read and I practiced, and from there I moved back.
When you said as a trader on the Wall Street?
Yes, so market analyst.
Okay.
So I did that about a year, and then I moved back, and I tried my hand at a few things. We started a few companies, and through that journey, I found that I was constantly trying to improve my skills.
Yeah.
So to date, we've been able to set up a ceramics importation company, but this also spans other interests, including warehousing and a few other things.
Okay. Yeah. I want to take you straight to the first time I first met you. very energetic, working hard, and you were building a company called Smart Business Intelligence at the time, when you had just almost returned to Uganda, I think. What happened to that journey? There were changes. You have been to 4 different places, and we want to talk about those 4 or 5 different places today.
Yes.
Whilst we dive into the part of the show, which is change management. How do you manage change from Wall Street back to Uganda, and then from Uganda now to this company? What has been the journey like? The leadership and the change management experiences.
Yes. So there's always a lot of growth, right? As you go from one aspect of your career to the next.
Yeah.
So with Smart Business Intelligence, we were making accounting software for small and medium enterprises, as well as analytics for the enterprise side, so larger organizations. Now, when you do that, you get exposed to a whole range of businesses, because at every business's core is accounting. So regardless of what the business is, whether it's this media or farming or any of these diverse businesses, at the core is accounting. So having interacted with so many of these businesses, you really get a sense of what makes a business tick, what doesn't, what operations are required in order to make a business thrive. And at the end of it all, you come out with a better understanding of how to accelerate a business further into its growth.
Okay. Managing that change from Smart Business Intelligence to later on the Good Air Collective Limited.
Yes.
What was the journey like, and why?
That one was a particularly fun journey.
You mean there's fun, right, at leadership level?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, any business that you're involved in has to have that element of fun. It has to be exciting.
Yeah.
You have to be creating value where there was none before.
Yeah.
And we certainly did that with a Good Hair Collective. This was a hair care company, hair and skin care, organic, and this is something that didn't really exist in Uganda at the time.
Yeah.
There were a lot of companies making products that were harsh on the skin.
Yeah.
So for me, this was an opening to be able to come in and really change the way we do things. And that for me is the pull that attracts me to any business. If we can disrupt or change the way a current industry is working, that's what gets me in the door.
Wow.
So.
And I want to just ask you one more question, Peter. Lazuli Ceramics. The construction business in Uganda has been striving over the years. But also the tax element of it has been striving over the years.
Yes.
Why did you venture into this business, and why did you choose this particular business over the ones that you already had, like Smart Business Intelligence?
So for me, it all starts with identifying a gap, right? So you want to find where there's a gap in the market, as opposed to finding a market in the gap. So what that means is that you have to be able to recognize that there's a need for your service.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, sometimes we make mistakes in thinking that because we're passionate about something, the market will demand it. No. You have to be able to look at a business and say, is there demand for this? How many active consumers are there? What is wrong about the current industry that I can fix, either on a price point or a quality point, or if you're lucky enough, both. Those were the questions that I asked when it came to ceramics, specifically on the importation side, and I found that indeed there was a gap. So over the past years, as we were constructing, or as colleagues of mine were building, we found that they couldn't find quality ceramic tiles to finish either their buildings or their homes. And the ones that were on the market were incredibly overpriced. So given that we had this emerging middle class that wanted luxury finishing for their homes, but couldn't quite afford the ultra-priced tiles that were on the market, I sought to bring these tiles in myself. And that's how it was born.
And then what was the experience like, changing from that the Smart Business to the Air Collective, and now into ceramic? These are totally 2 diverse areas of business.
Yes, on surface they seem diverse,
Yeah.
but at their core they really have a lot that's in common. So the core team, right, had very similar characteristics in all of those businesses.
Yes.
You have people who are driven, you have people who are competent, you have people who are smart, and then they were all also serving a gap that was in the market. And three, they all had their fundamentals on point. So the price point was right. They had an addressable market already, and they had what you might call a product market fit. In other words, their product was ready to go to the market, and there was that fit.
Yeah.
The market was also ready to consume the product. Yeah, with those three things in common, it was easy for me to transition.
Wow. Would you say that your exposure into the US market gave you a launch pad as a leader into thinking this way and being very analytic in the process of making decision?
Yes, I would say so. Absolutely. It was probably a game changer for me. The range of businesses that I was exposed to as an analyst really allowed me to see how these guys operate, especially what you might call Fortune 500 companies. These are companies that have scaled from nothing and have dominated their respective industries. So all of these companies have these characteristics in common. And as you start to study their underlying portfolios, you pick up on certain winning strategies. So I was able to take those learnings and apply that in a Ugandan context.
Okay. If I have not been able to go and study in the US or in the UK, and I'm here, what advice would you give me who only stop at Makerere? Most Ugandans don't pride themselves in taking a bus to Kenya or moving somewhere. I have been to Kalere Primary School or Buganda Road to Makerere, from Makerere to MTN, and that's my world.
Yes.
Would you say that my experience is as good as yours? Certainly not. The decision-making process, certainly not. But I want to grow, and I'm seeing Peter Muzola right now talk this journey, but I don't know how to go about it. What would be the best advice?
I would say log on to YouTube University. It's why I love shows like this, because the content is available for anyone.
Yeah.
YouTube is such an underrated tool. I mean, to this very day, I spend countless hours on it. You know, my wife will tell you I'm not much of a TV watcher, but when it comes to watching things on YouTube, be it finance or farming, I am constantly on there, and the information is free. You will go from being a novice to an expert after 100 hours of YouTube. Now, you don't have to spend those 100 hours at once, but you do this 30 minutes after dinner every night. You find that you are truly knowledgeable about a field. So it's all about the passion. You also are free to seek out mentors. Now, these mentors exist everywhere. You just have to actively go out and find them. Now, when you're approaching these mentors, you don't go to them and say, hi, give me your time, because these professionals their time is extremely valuable on a per hour basis. So you want to position yourself in a way that you're adding value to them. So it can be something as simple as, look, if in return for some training, I'm willing to do this for you. Get your coffee, whatever it takes, right? You're the one who wants the information. So put yourself in a position to add value to your mentor, and your mentor will certainly return the favor. Because at the end of the day, business professionals want to pay it forward. They had their own mentor, and they recognize that the only way you can perpetuate the cycle is by mentoring someone else.
Wow. Peter, that unfortunately is not the case many times in Africa. In Africa, we don't value very much mentorship. We don't value very much taking, going through the process. We like to value progress for process. And every time we bypass process for progress, unfortunately, we don't tend to go very far. And I just want to ask you this question. Global Shaper Kampala, what was this about? Why the journey from ceramic to there?
So Global Shapers is, it's not a business per se, it's more incidentally of like a mentorship group, right? So started by the World Economic Forum, and it just pulls together young, like-minded people and the goal there is to try and improve our communities. So, you know, during my time there, for example, we had a literacy project that we started in Gayaza, where I would give out books. I did mentorship training for some Makerere University graduates, teaching them on important things, soft skills like emotional intelligence, resume building, all these things that are not necessarily taught in the formal setting, but are absolutely critical in the workplace.
Wow. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Mr. Peter Muzora and I are going to be back on the show, and we'll be diving into deeply the middle part of the show, which often gets many CEOs sweating. Of course, we've got the AC in the studio. We don't expect Peter to sweat, but just in case you see some sweating, you know what we're talking about, and you've been forewarned and forgiven. Again, the CEO Bench is for you to learn a thing or two from those who have done it, those who are doing it, and those who are climbing up, and those who are on the top. We brought on this show rather for you some really deep thinking people, and people who have given you insights and of course on things you need to do, and we hope that you're doing it. The CEO Bench will be right back after the break. This is the CEO Bench with Peter Muzora and Eddie Okello.
My name is Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? You know, change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SEAL Uganda on number 0772443085, or check our website www.sealuganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
My name is David Okwi, and I'm the shop manager here at Oduka. Our vision is really to bring technology closer to the people, closer to you, tech that you can afford, tech that lasts, tech that is durable, and tech that you can use to simplify your life. My inspiration behind starting Oduka came from the fact that I've been blogging or writing about tech for the past 10 years, but the stuff that I've been writing about has not been locally available in the market. So what we did is, let's bring this technology to the people. So we really had to start a store, an actual store that you can order today and then have the product delivered to you tomorrow. So currently we launched with mobile accessories. Think a car phone charger, car phone mount, iPhone charger, micro USB, Type-C, charging accessories like this power extension here with 4 ports that you can use to charge your phone, as well as the other ports for appliances. We test our products and make sure that they're up to standard. We vet our suppliers. We don't just get any supplier. Other than the fact that COVID-19 has forced you to sell online, there are very many advantages why you should do that. One of the advantages is the convenience that you're bringing to your customers. 2 is that you have a wide market that expands beyond your working clients. We intend to grow, to bring more tech, to bring tech to the everyday user out there, and to bring really good tech. In order to do that, we intend to scale our product categories and to also cement our position as a leader in electronic products.
Welcome back from that break. That is the break where you get to see some people who are actually doing something more serious. That's a story from David Okwi right there of Oduka.com, the e-commerce platform beginning to take shape in Uganda, and that's a space that Mr. Muzola has actually been in his last couple of years, and of course he's still in that space. And Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
We're going to this moment where we have to talk about the journey to the top. You made it as the country manager of Sokowatch. Tell us the story and the journey. How did you get there, getting to the top to run from 0 to over 30 billion shillings? What does it make you feel like as a leader growing?
Well, the journey for Sokowatch is one that starts over 5 years ago in Nairobi as a company that was doing fast-moving consumer goods deliveries to the last mile. So this is Dukas and that kind of thing. From there, it sprawled to 9 cities across East Africa, and Kampala was one of those cities. So I joined as the country manager slightly over 2 years ago, and we essentially started the operations within Uganda. That 2-year journey then spawned quite a bit of growth. We took on a number of suppliers and were able to deliver fast-moving consumer goods to our core customers. So these are last-mile retailers, supermarkets, wholesalers, and the like.
Okay. Yeah. Peter, that's your biggest leadership position. Running a team of people in the country. Did you start with one? Were you the first staff, second staff? I mean, just
yes.
Take us through the journey and what has been the leadership journey in that space?
Yes, I was employee number 1.
Yes. And so you were the driver, the office cleaner, the messenger, and all these things, the kitchen, the tea yes.
Yeah, so obviously in entrepreneurship, you have to wear many hats, right? This comes with the territory. So being the first employee, you have to recruit the suppliers, you have to source the warehousing space, onboard the delivery agents, essentially do whatever it takes to get the business up and running.
Yeah.
Up until a point where you can bring on staff to back you up. So that was the journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talking of that, I mean, not everyone understands the role of country manager. When they say country manager, it doesn't come with a title of just managing small goats here and there. You're actually managing a serious business or starting something that is going to become serious. So from 0 to plus 30 billion is not a simple journey to take. That journey requires that you have a very strong leadership abilities. Your leadership abilities must determine your level of effectiveness. What were your leadership, style in trying to get the company from the moment to say now you have the mantle to roll?
The leadership, there was no one leadership style, let me say. As a leader, you have to be able to evolve how you lead based on the level that your organization is at. Now, when your organization is bringing in 50 million, that is very different from the kind of leader that is required to lead an organization that is bringing in 6 billion. Yeah. So you must constantly evolve, and you must evolve faster than the company. Otherwise, you will no longer be fit to push that company forward. So over the years, my leadership style changed based on the kind of leader that was required. In the beginning, it was certainly the kind of guy who's involved in every aspect, creating the processes, getting things on board, shipping product out the door. You have to know every aspect of your business before bringing in professionals and then entrusting them with that responsibility. So that's the first scale of leader. The second one is one who empowers the skilled staff that he has now brought in, shows them the ropes, but then also gives them the free rein, the trust to drive the business forward in their own way. Without doing that, if you revert back to the first kind of leader that you are, you find that you're a micromanager. And you then become the greatest.
Which is quite a number of
yes, exactly. Which
the style we have here in Africa, quite a bit, yes.
So that makes you an actual impediment to the business.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, you have to keep evolving your style as the business keeps scaling.
So those were two: trusting people, responsibility. It's not very easy for one to give responsibility or to entrust people with responsibilities when they are growing up the business, particularly when the business is a cross-border business. But you were in that space. Yeah. And up until the day or 2 yesterday, we realized that you have moved on to the next level, which we're going to talk about. What was that journey like when you finally get to that point? Because leaders in Africa are not very good with trusting other people's responsibility. I do it all, I know it all. Most of them. It's quite different until when you go out of Uganda, is when you start to see how people think, how people are doing things. That's when you start seeing, and if you fly out of the African continent, it's a completely different ballgame altogether. They are brought into this leadership space from a very early childhood. Now, what was that journey like for you? That moment, that hour, when you felt like, now I need to hand it over to this team. I am now competent enough. What are some of the things that you have to tick in that box for you to let that responsibility go and entrust them with responsibilities?
Well, one, I'll say it's never easy. As an entrepreneur, when you start something from scratch, you feel that ownership, right? It's almost like your baby. And you're kind of afraid to let a child go on its own. But you have to, right? Because you have to trust that the people that you've brought on are highly competent, otherwise you wouldn't have hired them in the first place. And they share the same interests, the same passion that you have to drive that business forward. Now, when you know you've assembled a team that truly shares your vision, it becomes easier because you're all reading from the same script. You all want the same thing for the business. So in that sense, it's easy for you to show them their roles and allow them to then drive the business forward in their own way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter, that journey is not easy. I have been training many business leaders from my daily place of comfort where I sit as a consultant. And most business managers will hire people to come in, talent to come in, but will always want to make decisions. And that is very synonymous with Ugandan businesses and African businesses. That said, was that the case in your area that the proprietor of the business, was he giving you the space to think, or you always have to, it's as if you're not going, it's as if you're going, it's as if you're not going, you know, that moment when you're supposed to make a decision for you to be measured based on the decision you've taken, to say, yes, you took this decision. Can you defend your decision? Can you, you know, as a leader, say why you decided to pick this course of direction, not the other?
Yes.
Did you have that leeway?
Yes, and it was really one of the things that attracted me to join the company in the first place. So, you know, within the company, we had this policy that the best idea wins, whether it comes from the CEO, whether it comes from the cleaner. If the idea is valid, if the idea is sound, then we are willing to hear it. So when you have that kind of open sourcing of ideas, then you find that you're constantly evolving faster than the competition. But when the idea comes from one source, then you're always going to be limited to how exposed is that person, how refreshed are his ideas. It's not scalable, especially if you're looking to dominate an entire industry or an entire continent. You constantly have to be able to source ideas from everyone around you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's go to what we called building an environment that allows everybody to strive. And I want to take you to this set of sort of like measurement, which often is meant to give you, our viewers, what this program is all about. Combines very simple intellectual rigor with personal challenge, collaborations with creative expressions to give people a mind and a space for them to think and to learn. Peter, that said, the viewers of this program must engage with very integrated mind maps to sort of like understand the organizational and leadership development from an individual who has appeared on this show, as well as instantly applicable practices of becoming very effective person as a leader growing up or thinking of that process, and very dynamic as an individual or as a collective. Starting with is transformation and change. How do you manage transformation and change from all these levels?
So
from where you started, you know, up, down in the US, down here, you've been, this is your 5th company, and you're moving, and you've made it to the general, country manager, which is fairly a very big position compared to many people, yes.
Yeah. So change management for me starts within, right? If you're trying to go from one level to the next, you have to ask yourself, do I have the skills necessary to make this happen? Am I able to add value in this new space? When I enter a room, am I in a position to take the information from those mentors that will be in there and apply it and improve my game to a level where I'm on par with those very people? That for me, change management is an internal thing. Before you look at anything external, you have to constantly be willing to challenge yourself.
You as a person.
Exactly. You have to be willing to learn more, read more, interact more. That's how you find that your mind is more flexible to new ideas, and you approach the market in different ways. You see things differently. You start to see them as a leader as opposed to someone who was maybe looking for a paycheck. With constant reading and interaction and introspection, you just become better at your craft.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to tell us, when you do that, you started from self. How does it then transcend to your journey in managing everywhere you have moved?
Yeah.
There was change.
Yes.
How did you manage it?
One, you know, it starts with trusting your team. If you find that there's a change in the marketplace, you have a new entrant, a competitor, for example, you need to assess why is it that that competitor was able to come in. So why are the barriers to entry in your business so low that someone feels that they can come in and eat your lunch? Fix that. 2, fix the processes that you have internally that might be allowing for these weaknesses, that might be allowing for these gaps. This could be in terms of your product. This could be in terms of the delivery. Are you shipping it out fast enough? Is the quality of the product up to par with what the market expects? Is the pricing on point, or is this new guy going to come in and undercut you? All of these are things that you can really look at and see where you can improve. And then once you feel like you fixed the issue, go out and meet that competitor head on. That's how you manage change.
Okay. Yeah. What about from the staff, the personnel point of view? When change is always happening, people tend to have a very different idea as to why the change is happening. And every time you are leaving the company, we want to know from the personal journey, from what informed your decision to say, I'm now moving on from this one to the next one to the next one. What are you looking for as you move?
For me, it's always growth. I need to be able to feel like the next step that I'm taking is adding another level. It's challenging for me. It's allowing me to impact more people. It's allowing me to contribute more, add more value on a larger scale, and to build something that's going to have an outsized impact that outlasts any of us here, right? And that impacts far more people than we can impact individually. So that's what attracts me to the businesses that I choose to take on.
Okay. When you're moving in these journeys, do you communicate? We're going to the learning organization. Learning organization means, and what we're looking for here is that when you are leaving this organization, you've learned a lot of things from here. When you're moving to the next organization, you've got to learn so many things as you land into that place. What has the journey been like? Some can tend to be very challenging. Others, you can enter the job and you find out that the way things are run inside is not necessarily how it looks outside. How have you been able to manage this as a person?
So yes, you're right. You can find that the company culture is very different from what you as an individual considered. Now, in Uganda, oftentimes you can find a scenario where the employee, especially if he's coming in at a junior level, is at odds with what the company culture is. And this is because we don't really do training on these soft skills for our young graduates before they enter the workforce. So this young graduate will enter this corporate environment and find that there's this strict culture of promptness, of service delivery, of timekeeping. You do what you say you're going to do, and you do it on time. So we, as professionals in the business, really have to take a step back and ensure that these young graduates come into the workforce with these skills. Because they're not going to get these skills in the universities right now. Those are just not being taught. So that's why programs like this exist. That's why I'm a big fan of them, to offer that kind of mentorship. Now, when you're in the organization and you're onboarding these young people, you have to clearly state what the culture is. Because at the end of it all, culture is a function of what you allow, what you don't allow, right, and what you let slide. Now, you have to define very early on what you're going to let slide and what you're going to stop. And if you keep that area gray, then anything will pass in your company, and that will be the end of it. So you have to define your culture early on, and you have to ensure that anyone coming from the outside in gets inculcated, like they get in and they understand it. It's critical that everyone from the CEO right down to the bottom knows what's non-negotiable, knows the core values, and lives by those core values. Where possible, you also interview for what we call a culture fit. That is where you assess from the jump whether this employee shares the same values. Does he have respect for everyone else? Does he have a core appreciation for the work that you do? If you don't share those same core values, then chances are very high that that individual won't hack it in the organization.
Okay. That said, Peter, levels of leadership development. What has been your level of leadership development over the years, given your experiences of steps moving from A to point B to point C to point D?
So the level of leadership development that I've been involved in, I mean, I would say that it's constant. You're always learning. For me, that's something that just never ends. You know, the work that we did in Global Shapers exposed me to, you know, leadership positions, mentorship positions specifically. Even under Soko Watch, we would frequently take time out from our calendars to ensure that we are constantly learning and also mentoring the younger guys, making sure that we take time to speak to each and every one of them. So for me, it's a constant thing. It never ends. And the minute you think you know enough is probably the minute that you stop being an effective leader.
Well, you've heard that coming from Mr. Peter Muzora. We're going to take another break. And of course, when we come back, we'll dive into the transformation part of it. But also, we want to know from him, throwing the towel at Sokowatch, does it mean it's going up? Does it mean it's going down? What awaits Peter Muzora along the way, and where is he headed? And of course, we want to talk about the change and the transformation in the e-commerce space in Uganda. Is it a place that is virgin? Is it going forward, or is it not going forward? From a man who has been in this space for some time, we want to know. Stay right there, I'll be right back after the break.
Private sector is not yet fully utilized because not everybody can be employed by government. And we are looking at a future whereby more people are employed in the private sector than in government. So I think if we all work hard, if we all work together and invest in the right areas, there's been a lot of talk about value addition in the agriculture sector, in the mineral sector. If there is enough investment in those areas, I think it can create enough jobs for our children and grandchildren.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to take you to question number 4, Andrew, which is, let's talk about your journey at City Hold and the foray into the Executive Director's office, which is as Andrew Chitaka,
Very interesting.
as well as the Director Engineering.
Very interesting. I joined KCCA on 1st November 2011. And before then, I was
for so much.
Yes.
CEO of, you know, whatever.
Yes.
They give so much.
This is the reason why you're actually on the bench.
Because of my credibility. Thank you so much. But now they attack you, they vilify you. And the goal is to weaken you financially. Is to weaken your honor. These are slanderers. So I'm glad that someone would stay up at night to ask and learn about me. And I pray that in the next 2 months, because I know many Ugandans who travel overseas, when they go there, one of the things, because the media has been so much, and Sam Kutesa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, has really not done a good job. He has dropped the ball on this issue. Why? So many of us are being accused of being gay killers, including me. You've just heard that person. Uganda is being accused that we kill gays, which actually is absolutely untrue. And because of this, it has affected our tourism. It affects people who go overseas to do work or study. It affects whenever you go to a conference. Hi, my name is Eddie Okiela. Where are you from? I'm from Uganda. Oh, you are the gay killers. And then you begin to describe. So one of the things that I've done is I've written a book, which should be coming out. I know that I keep saying the same thing, but the work of doing a book takes a long time, and I wish I could be supported. You know, many people who write on this subject, like Sylvia Tamale, she's supported by the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Foundation. There is money.
Is a very big brand, and as we go on, we will probably discuss the things we're trying to do to see that things change for the better.
Good. Sean, on the CEO bench, for everyone who is following, we're live on our YouTube studio where we actually streaming from. So YouTube studio, for everybody asking for a link, is actually House of Talent Uganda.
Confident in themselves and what they are offering.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest problem. Like, women will easily settle for a less pay than men would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mona Onyeto Deke goes on to say, or I think this is a comment, says, I didn't know that beauty products are taxed at 60%. Whoa.
They are. I pray that changes soon, but they are.
Okay. So
Yeah.
with that challenge of 60%,
setting up the company, you're doing tours all across the world. You know, a personal account is great, but how these things are taxed becomes important for you know, for your business later on. As soon as you cross that threshold of 50 million a year, you know, you're now in
the
a
interest become more shares.
Yes.
Welcome back from that break. This is the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okela, and in the studio is Mr. Peter Muzora, who is the former country manager of Sokowatch. The man is on his way out of that place. Was he fired? Certainly not. Did he resign? Yes. Where is he headed? What's the next plan? Is he going to replace some people in certain areas, the sector of e-commerce? Is a question Peter will have to answer. Peter, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Before we went for a break, we talked much about the levels of leadership development. Now, we want to talk about practice for transformational leadership. You're transforming from one place to the next.
Yeah.
Every time we hear that somebody's leaving, there are three questions that come. And Ugandan streets are very good with speculations.
Yeah.
We speculate a lot, we say a lot. You're moving out of Sokowatch. Where are you headed to, and why are you moving out? Have you outgrown the organization? Are you leading with the transformational practices hitting you and saying, I've outgrown the place, I need to go to the next level? Where are you headed? Are we seeing you upsetting Jumia, top level, or one of those places? Yes.
Yes, it's a great question. I think, you know, from the journey that we've had from inception to this point, it's been a fantastic one. It's been very fulfilling. But ultimately, there comes a time when you feel like perhaps it's time for a new challenge. You know, there's so many other sectors, so many other aspects that you'd like to dive into that I hadn't really had a chance to do that over the last few years. So, you know, while the journey has been incredible and, you know, very, very enriching, I learned a lot. I think it's time for me to explore new avenues. That's why I made the decision.
Wow. So the new avenues, meaning you are rising to the CEO position now? Going backward?
I mean, the goal is always progression, right? You don't want to regress, and you certainly don't want to go sideways.
Okay.
So it's always progressive.
Okay.
And for us, as entrepreneurs, me at least, it's all about creating value. So I'm attracted to areas where I can add value, where we can build things that didn't exist before, where we can disrupt existing industries. So that's how I'm viewing the lens of the next organization that I'll be joining.
Okay. Peter, transformation of a leader is very important, as well as the transformation of the place where you've been. Leadership dictates that we influence people. And when we influence people with the view of changing them who are followers to becoming leaders themselves and becoming better people tomorrow. And like we often say, it takes a leader to chart the course, but anyone can steer the ship.
Yes.
Have you left the ship of Sokowatch in a good place, or anyone is just going to steer the ship, and when it comes to the docking point, the ship will crash in Uganda?
I believe it's in a strong position. certainly stronger position now. For me, as I'd mentioned earlier in the show, the traits of an effective leader is one whereby if you remove that leader, the organization still keeps driving forward. It's an indictment on me if I'm the single entity that is driving that organization forward. It implies that I don't trust the colleagues around me. But if we've been able to assemble this team and they've each contributed to driving the business forward in their own way, then I am very happy to allow them to continue to take that business forward. So I have every confidence that the company will go on to do even greater things.
Okay, so you are saying in short that you have not left us where we're going to, crumble.
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, you've heard that one from Peter. Let's talk about personal effectiveness and resilience. As a leader, you are headed, obviously, from what you've said to the top.
Yeah.
I don't see you stepping back even one step. You said you're going forward. In Uganda, we say, Tetuda Mabega, Tugenda Maso. It means we're going forward, we're not going back. The resilience to go to the top is not easy. The climbing to the top is not easy. The next assignment is not easy. There's a huge difference between management and leadership.
Yeah.
A leader is the one who leads self and find meaning in leading self, then appoint himself or herself to be worth enough for others to see value in him or her, to lead them. That's very key. That's a leader. Whereas a manager maintains the status quo. Management is about maintaining status quo. This is where you found us. Please maintain the mess that we're in. That's what it means.
Right.
Where you're going, there will be expectations. How resilient are you if tomorrow you end up at Jumia as the CEO, for example? What would be your first 100 days action as a man on the top?
Well, the first 100 days for me in any organization it centers around analysis. What are the current processes? How are they operating? Where are the gaps? What can be fixed? So you don't want to be one of those guys who comes in and makes a lot of noise just to be seen that they are doing what. Yes, I'm here, so you must go.
Yeah.
No. That does nothing for the motivation of the team, and you need the team to be willing to follow you in your new direction.
Okay.
So leading with fear is never an effective strategy. You want to inspire these people to follow you willingly and to achieve the goal that you set out for them, and to achieve it and to believe in it, right? So that it's their goal now, not just yours.
Yeah.
Now, when it's shared in that way, then you find that you're able to achieve your objective that much faster. So for me, it all starts with analysis. Understand what's wrong in the organization and where can you fix it, and how do you dominate, how do you fix it so you dominate the space and become the #1 player.
Okay. So what would you say, Peter, about these leaders who show up in the organization? The first thing they have to make their presence felt by either showing that I'm now the new boss here, so please, this is how things are going to go. If you don't like it, please resign. And often it seems to be in our context in Uganda, in African countries, it seems to be the model of leadership style that we love so much. And then we also don't love to hand over to somebody else. We want to hold on to something. We also don't like to mentor people.
Right.
You are now rising to the top. What are your thoughts on those, what we call organizational culture? The levels of organizational development, creating an agile organization that one can follow tomorrow when you're not there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? If I'm looking at you or watching you on television like right now, and I'm there anywhere in the world, I want to pick that bits and pieces from you that I can use going forward. I've been stuck in one place, but I'm seeing Peter Muzora who is under 40, rising to the top, and me who is 40, I'm still stuck. Or me who is 20, think it is just very easy. Has it been easy for you? And what are your thoughts? What would be the best advice for that person?
I guess, the best advice that you have to constantly invest in yourself. You have to constantly keep reading, keep learning, whether it's YouTube or Google or whatever, keep exposing yourself to the right material. So you become an expert in your field. That's how you keep adding value no matter what level you're at. You have to put in the work. You know, there's that 10,000 hour rule that states that you have to consume 10,000 hours worth of information before you can consider yourself an expert. So that tells you that it's all about the learning. On the earlier question you had raised about
the organizational culture.
Organizational
What
culture
would you want to live when you get there? And then to the level of organizational development that you would want to take wherever you're going.
Yeah.
And lastly, creating an agile organization. If you combine those things, what would be?
Yeah, so you want a versatile organization. You want one that adapts to challenges that come in without necessarily panicking or losing track of the objective. Now, the only way you can do this is by hiring people who are smarter than you. Now,
Peter, if you hire people who are smarter than you, will you succeed? But yes.
I mean, there's generally a fear around that.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't know how to do what we call managing up, right? They struggle when you're talking to your subordinate and somehow the guy has a better point than you. Then you get scared, or you feel intimidated as a leader. No, you want every discussion to be one in which your employees are seeing the gaps, hopefully before you do, because that's why they're there, right? To anticipate these problems and to call them out. Now, if you surround yourself with yes men or people who are not proactive, your organization is not going to move forward as fast as you'd like it to. You must surround yourself with the absolute best talent, and that means how you manage that talent is critical, right? It cannot be through fear, it cannot be through demands, because you're now dealing with intellectuals who are on par with you or probably even smarter than you if you do the hiring right. So you must do what we call leading from the back. You have to, one, inspire these guys to follow your agenda, and you have to give them the skills that they need to lead in their own right. That's how you have an organization that stands the test of time.
Wow. Well, this show is coming to the end, and we want to ask Peter, first of all, you are a business management professional. What does it entail for a border man on the street? After all, Sokowatch been dealing with low-end people, what we called the base where goods and services end, or where product ends. It's consumed there, it's finished at that level, it's done. What would be your best advice and the definition of business? What does it entail? What do I know? This man is a business management professional. If I called him here, isn't he not going to just shut my business down?
Look, all of us, if you're in business, right? If you're an entrepreneur, then you're in business management by default. If you're not managing your own business, then you're not. Every single one of us, I'm sure, has an innate understanding of the business that we're running. Now, to really call yourself a business management executive, you have to be on top of all your numbers. You have to know every single aspect of your business. You have to know where your gaps are, your weak spots. You have to be able to know who your competitors are. You basically have to be able to analyze the entire market from a bird's eye view, from a very neutral, non-partisan perspective, so that you can always anticipate the problems before they come up and stay one step ahead of the competition.
Wow. Peter, is e-commerce in Uganda still alive? And is it going anywhere, or is it overrated? Or is just simply the case we don't understand it very well? We simply see a lot of people posting things on Facebook, on YouTube, and on websites, and then very nice product, and then you say, okay, product is nice, how much is it? Then you say, inbox me. This has been a question going on. Why would you put it down and then you say, I inbox you? So you have been the country manager now going of Sokowatch, and you've dealt with the up market, the low-end market. Are we overrated, or we don't just simply understand what e-commerce is?
I think e-commerce is extremely underrated. I think we've barely scratched the surface of what e-commerce is in this country.
Yes.
It truly is the last mile. When it's the final frontier when it comes to how we buy goods, and it's here to stay. That aspect of it is not going away anytime soon. Now, being in the early stages, there are mistakes that we make. So that price transparency that you mentioned, it's a pet peeve of mine. You know, you log on, you see something you like, and because the person is trying to assess your profile, he doesn't want to give you the price. We have to do away with that, seriously, as Ugandans. Like, no. It's almost like you would go into a restaurant and then the waiter covers the part of the menu that has the price.
That has the price. It's a first order.
Based on how you're dressed, it's ridiculous. Understand your price, right, as an entrepreneur. Set your price based on the cost of production and the average margin for the market, and go with that price. So we are just beginning, in my opinion. There's so many aspects of e-commerce that have knock-on effects. So through e-commerce, there's aspects of financing, especially for the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs that are involved in e-commerce oftentimes don't have access to formal financing. You know, through e-commerce, there's knock-on industries that are built up, logistics, especially third-party or last-mile logistics. So e-commerce really is a tool to transform the way we do business. We know that about 60 or 70% of our GDP comes from small and medium enterprises, and these guys are involved in commerce. That's exactly what they do. So shifting that platform onto the internet, right, is really the most efficient way to scale that and get that into as many consumers' hands as possible. So I'm a big believer in it.
Wow. So thank you very much, Peter. You are basically saying that this whole idea of price discrimination should stop. Is either we're ignorant about what e-commerce is, or we are aware of what it's supposed to be, that when you put the product out there, put the price so that I can make a decision whether to buy it or not to buy it.
Right.
But not to say, inbox me for this price. Right. And that has been a big problem here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Peter, your last word to us today. What would be the top 3 takeaway from here, from your lesson learned going forward, that you would leave it with us if I'm watching you? What should I take from you today?
I think as entrepreneurs, you know, we're all passionate about our businesses. I would say invest in yourself, right? Invest in learning as much as you can about your industry. Seek mentors out, and make sure that that you're surrounded by them. Invest in the market. Make sure you're putting out a quality product. Much as you expect the market to pay you, make sure that you're giving as good value as you expect to get. And lastly, pay it forward. You know, find those entrepreneurs that are struggling. If you've made it to a certain level, there's always someone who's the level below you. Seek them out, give them the tools that they need, and allow them to pay it forward. Our generation is one that is, you know, on the cusp of achieving incredible things that our parents could never have dreamed. But we can only achieve that if every single one of us is paying it forward and putting out quality into the market. And giving fair value.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you for being part of the show today. The parting shot from me, you either answer it or not, but if you are the CEO and your board asks you to bypass a certain process that you see is not good for the organization and not good for you, would you do it? And if you do it, would you suffer the consequences?
I mean, as leaders, you're always going to be put in that position, right? So you're always going to be faced with further growth, probably at the expense of the process, right? Because you're always seeking that next level of growth. So you always have to ask yourself, is this growth worth it, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And oftentimes the answer is no. The minute you abandon the same processes that got you from 0 to 100 is the is the same minute, that's the exact same point that you fail to make it to the next 1,000. So integrity is everything. Stick to your guns, no matter how hard that seems. It always pays out.
Okay, so you're saying don't squeeze the juice, basically. That's what you're saying. All right, we've come to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Muzora, Eddie Okello. We're signing out from the CEO bench. Until next week, please drop us a comment. Kisses and disses are all welcome. And we promise to bring you back, Mr. Peter Muzora, when he finally becomes the real CEO. He's a man on a growth, he's a man on a step, and anytime he will make it to the top. And when he gets to the top, we want to bring him back to you here so that you can ask him a lot more questions about what was the journey like to the top, and when you rise to the top, how do you sustain yourself there? Thank you very much for being part of the CEO Bench, Growing Big and Better. Next week, we promise to bring you a very amazing guest.
My name is Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? You know, change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SEAL Uganda on number 0772443085, or check our website www.sealuganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
welcome to the Creative Industry Talk. This week, my name is Eddie Okela, and in the studio is Faizo Chiwewa and Rasby Sally. Back on the show, the legend, as Faizo said. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And of course, we need to play Rasta's song today.
Yeah.
People just don't know that Rasta has a album.
Give you his rights.
Rasta, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Faizo, welcome back to the show. We missed you last week. The internet wasn't doing us justice, but we're happy to have you back on the show today.
Thank you.
Good. How was your trip?
It was good. It was good.
And
relaxation, I think.
Yes, from Karamoja, riding the bicycle with kids to
wherever you went
flying. So those are a good one. Mr. Bicycle himself, how are you today? Yes, you know, Rasta is always riding every Sunday.
Actually, I wanted to recommend him to do the Karamoja thing.
Yes.
I did the 64 kilometers in 3 hours, which was really nice. I'm sure Rasta will enjoy it.
Yes.
That's cool.
I need to go for that as well. And to all of you out there, welcome to the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okela, Faizo Chiwewa, and of course Rasby Sally. We are back to talk about the situation surrounding the creative industry in Uganda. And our topic this week is not far from where we started last week, which is the COVID-19 and its effect and impact on the creative industry. Specifically, we want to focus on investments, investors, events, and partners. This week, we want to talk about partners in that regard. So I will start with you, Faizo. Extraordinary situation like pandemics disrupt normalcy and can shake up the industry very much, and we're seeing the sector either can be positively impacted or negatively impacted. Obviously, the creative industry in Uganda has been heavily negatively impacted. And what are the positive developments on the creative industry so far this week, which we can attribute to COVID-19, or this month of April? Now that you're in the month of Ramadan.
Yeah, first of all, it's very good that we are fasting. It takes away the, the stress of worrying about food for the creative. So I recommend all the creative people who are not having any revenues, fast. It will save you some revenues. But on a serious note, I think it is very, there are some significant strides that have been achieved within this period. Some of us have been busy working on certain new products on the market that we are going to bring in, and like this Friday we are doing an orientation of our new platform, an e-commerce platform that we have been developing for the past 8 months. And I would really credit that to COVID, because before we didn't have the time. We were so busy with the events and the usual business. Now when we went back home and had time to be in our own spaces, we found ourselves thinking, and what can we do differently? How can we create sustainability? How can we not get surprised again like we are now with the COVID? So we were not prepared, but now I think it has given us an opportunity to to think how best can we do things differently, how can we survive. But I'm also worried one of the disadvantages of it is that we are going to lose a lot of creatives, because many of them that have been really depending on the arts, for example, in theater, in film, in dance, have not had any opportunity to get any support or any revenues. And even before, they were struggling. So now during this lockdown, they have really suffered more. And I really think most of them are going to change their careers to do certain things that are different. So in the very near future, we are going to find ourselves starting again to build a new industry because of this pandemic.
Wow. Rasby, we left the show last week when you were talking about we need to help creatives to come up with something. And are there any positives so far since you appeared on the show that you've come with today that we can start from, like Faizo said, this month?
Basically, before I kick off, hopefully my body scent is okay for you.
You can
for me, I haven't seen any positives since
from the events perspective.
Since I was last year.
Yeah.
Of course, there is no any positives. It's the same story.
Yeah.
As Faizo had mentioned, what I've also noticed, people leaving the industry.
Yeah.
They are trying to set up themselves into other income-generating staff projects.
Yes.
Because when you look at the industry, we do not know when it will reopen. There's no specific time that in this time the industry will be open. So we are still basically so people are rethinking, even myself, because you know I have equipment.
Yeah.
So the more equipment stays in a store without working, it's affected.
Yeah.
You understand? So once in a while we get it out, we try to clean it, put it into power, you know, and all these are costs because you need to pay for power.
Yeah.
You need to pay for water to clean the equipment, even the crew, you need to pay them.
Yeah.
So there is no single positivity for now. So we are still stuck in the same old.
In that. Well, Faizo, naturally there have been several negative implications on the creative industry. And like Rasby has said, for them that are in the event space today, our focus is on the event space, and you are a creator and you have this. How do we get out of this negativity, and could you run us through some of them and how could we navigate them going forward?
I mean, you know, there is no one to blame about the, you know,
COVID-19, true.
Yeah. But at the same time,
but there could be some people to blame about COVID-19. We don't know. There's money here and there, but that jokes aside, please proceed. Yes.
I don't know my blame people. So I try to do something about it. I think the negativity in terms of you know, what is there now is really built on the fact that there is a lot of you know, frustration.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of less hope and opportunity for people. Like we talked the other time, I think it's really important for, yes, as a people, we need to think for ourselves. How can we survive? But also, on the other hand, we need to be able, as citizens, as governments, because we inform or contribute, plan for our own people.
Yes.
So I think the negativity has been really seeing the imbalance in the approach to the pandemic. Of course, within our limitations, which sometimes we forego as a government. I'm not talking on behalf of the government, I'm not OO, but maybe as I can speak like OO when he says that our government spends more than it has, which is the fact, but also the priorities in where it is spending, I think it's where people get more frustrated from. And then they carry on this frustration because they feel there has not been any thought for them. You know, I think it's really, really challenging any mind to find that people, a certain group of people is really living on their lives the way normal, yet another segment is really, really struggling. And if I was in that position, I would like to create a balance. I know it's difficult sometimes, you're not going to feed everyone or make everyone happy, but you have to put up some systems in place where you feel, or you can try to create a balance in the lifestyles, in the livelihoods of the people. So I think that's where the most of the frustrations are, and the negativity comes from. And I don't think it's possible to take that away unless if there is a change in approach or a change in the attitude of the leadership. But I think it's also important to not frustrate ourselves as as stakeholders. I understand from RASB, it's a huge investment they have put in over the years. I think he's been working for over 20 years to build his company. It was at the peak of it, and then boom. Now I can imagine all the cables, all the lights, all the microphones. Some of them will not. You plug it in power and just it explodes because it's not been used. All these electrical stuff need to be used to keep them alive. So I think that is very, very challenging for an investment, and I think for the economy and for the people, they have to figure out how to to change their attitude, given the fact that they cannot do anything about it.
Wow.
These things are there. We are not gonna we are not gonna wake up like the Europeans did. I saw it in South Africa. They just came out and just brought out all their, I don't know whether you saw those videos. They came out and brought all the equipment and put it on in the street, blocked the road, and they told them,
we need to go back to work.
Or you give us money to survive. And they against it. They try to support them. So I don't think we're going to do that.
RASB, are you going to bring the trucks on the road?
When you look at our situation here, it's totally different. Because we are not like South Africa. We are not like Europe or America. Here, our system of governance is totally different. You get on the street, you know the precautions. You might lose the investment itself.
But they fired the people who were doing that. Yesterday I heard. 153.
The policeman who did that. Well, that would be a
so
positive.
They fire after, but
people have already suffered anyway.
Exactly.
Your equipment is gone. But on that note, borrowing from what Faisal was saying, RASB, you have invested heavily into the events industry, as a person. Where does that leave you? We left last week when you're looking for some of the solutions to, somebody to speak life. And I said, let's have Faisal back on the show today, and let's have you back on the show so that Faisal can, we can speak some life nuggets of truth, of how can we move back? What can we do to move back from this COVID-19? What are you thinking? You're now representing the guys in that space. We can't bring all of them here, but at least you are here.
Of course I'm here, but we're all in different situations. My situation might not be the one of the other person in the same industry. Basically for me, I'm still cracking down my head to see how I can survive after this. Well, but life has to move on. So first of all, you need a supportive family. If you don't have support from the other family members, that's also another problem. Because when you're stuck here, if you have a supportive family, they can come in and give you a boost, morale, and basically engaging in other activities to keep you moving. So for me, still I'm stuck. No plan. No plan yet.
Yes. Faisal, do you have a plan for RASB? From your point of view, and I want to bring it from this point that you have a platform you're launching. That platform seems to help sort out the problem, or will help sort out the problem of the artist, the musician. But you see that it's going to go a long way for those who are in creative art, particularly in artists, singers, or theater, painters, or visual art. But the guys who are in the art industry of we make things happen, events, we make things happen.
When you look at Faisal's case, he's more into the administration. In my case, I'm more into the execution. So I haven't been in that line of planning. Now Faisal in the administration, so his main focus is planning for the industry. That is the difference between me and Faisal. I'm more of an executor. So I haven't been having that plan that in case of this or that. So my main aim is execution, execution, execution.
Yes.
So Faisal should be having a good
so Faisal, yeah, I mean, let's get down to Faisal here and just ask Faisal. Yes, I was asking the question, how do you help these guys move forward?
I think it's a puzzle that we all have to play to contribute to as an industry or as a sector. And one of the things from a programming perspective, we are prepared. Even if you tell me to roll out tomorrow a festival, I can do a festival tomorrow because I have my program since 2020. I have my artists on just a phone call away. I have everything prepared. I just need authorization. But this authorization also comes with the fact that, is it the right time to get this authorization? Because I don't want at the end of the day to be responsible for 50 people getting COVID because of my event. At the same time, can I work in an environment whereby I make sure that even if they are 50 or 100 or 200, they are not going to be at risk of acquiring or getting infected with the virus. So I think this is where the challenge is. And like we were talking last time, I think the plan for us as the presenters and the programmers, we are prepared to present, to work with the industry, to book them, even though we try to do small things, but they are not effective, they are not good enough, they are not enough for people. But I think what needs to be done is the authorities have to sit down on the same table with us and say, okay, like they did for churches, and like they did for COVID, the COVID cases that were coming in. They designated certain areas. They said Entebbe Virus Hospital is for COVID patients who are getting Mulago. We have a section where, if you have COVID, you go there. If you go to whatever hospital. Now, it's very simple. So for the music industry or for the industry, you can say Bat Valley. Bat Valley is big. And it can host concerts of, I think I've been there when there are like over 2,000 people seated in that hall before COVID. Now, if you just say a space like Bat Valley that hosts over 2,000 people, okay, let's say 1,000 people, you tell it, instead of 1,000, why don't you host 200? And you give them, observe the space, give them the SOPs, make sure that they follow those rules, make sure they will make sure, because they also want to work. They don't want to be caught on the other side of the law.
Because nobody wants to not follow what authorities given when you are being squeezed.
And look at the National Theatre. I was telling you last time, the National Theatre hosts around 372 people who sit in full capacity at the National Theatre. If you say just half of those people, everyone sits at a distance, you can have a concert of Joel, and then Rasby will be in business. You can have a concert of Susan Kerunen, or you can have a concert of, a dance show by Samuel Ibanda, because you need to think for the industry. And these things, the artists are ready, the industry is ready, the service providers are there, but they cannot do it on their own. They cannot just wake up and go and start performing. They need to be backed up by the law, and the law is not supporting them. So that's where the dilemma is.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Faisal and Rasby and myself are going to be talking a little bit more about the pandemic and, of course, the government, plans for us to move forward and what we need to do. I think some of the plans that Faisal is sharing is what Rasby was looking for last week, saying, let those who might have better thinking process come through and help us on how we can move forward. I think we're finding a way for this, and if you're a creative mind, a musician, a visual artist, a theater, a drummer, this is your space to be. We'll be right back after the break. This is the Creative Industry Talk.
squad inside me like an amplifier. With a ban, every fresh desire. Like the Holy Spirit with the holy fire. From glory to glory, He might take me higher. Then serving you is my active desire. And then the righteousness be my long attire. Jesus blood and that me a clean. Holy gabi we are coming star.
Uri mu mutima wanjye sinza kwitesha agakiza wamaye kandutira byose ubuzima bwanjye bufite intego ni wowe nkesha kubaho kwanjye ni wowe byiringiro bizima Yesu
so that me can prosper. Me only daddy and me papa and me doctor. Water me get every time when me thirsty. Oh yes, you love me. Daily, yes, you dey put food for me on the platter. And then your eyes watch over me. And then the heart full of praise and thanks that me offer. Ain't your light inside? I feel alive inside. I cannot deny.
Uri mu mutima wanjye sinza kwitesha agakiza wamaye kandutira byose ubuzima bwanjye bufite intego ni wowe nkesha kubaho kwanjye ni wowe byiringiro bizima Yesu sinzaho nari kuba ndi iyo wowe Yesu utaza kucubura nzira nabonaga imbere yanjye nta cyizere cy'ejo nari mfite hari umwijima wicura burindi imbere yanjye ariko Yesu waraje uramurikira uri mu mutima wanjye sinza kwitesha agakiza wamaye kandutira byose ubuzima bwanjye bufite intego ni wowe nkesha kubaho kwanjye ni wowe
got more experience in these things better than us. He is a living legend to us, and we pay a lot of respect to him. Rasby, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I just want to take you guys straight to one of the things that happened. When the pandemics, basically like COVID-19, emerged anywhere in the world, governments are duty bound to always come up with
Solutions.
decisive actions or measure to curb the spread of such pandemics when it happens. As a creative, they usually use creative. In fact, let me put it this way: as a creative, they always use our art to communicate.
Of course.
In the process of curbing the pandemic, but sometimes the assessment of the situation may not be very good, and they don't tend to involve other people. What is your assessment of the government of Uganda's COVID-19 response? Let's start from there.
I mean, I really, I don't do politics.
Yes.
So I'm always,
in relation to what we're talking about.
I don't want to be caught on the other side.
Yes.
Because I think we have a lot of work to do in the creative industry.
Yeah.
And I find it very difficult for me to, look around what government is doing, because they have not done much for the industry as long as I've been in it, at least for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Even just passing some simple, conducive laws and regulations, they have failed to do so.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was anything for them to plan for the creatives, because they don't think it exists. They know, but they don't think it exists. And I think it's very difficult. It would have been a real surprise to find that the government thought about the creatives during pandemic, because they've been struggling with other issues, health and security, and which are important as well, and education. some of the key things like education have been also struggling the same way. It's just that many people went out crying, and then they had to get into all these statistics of how many girls got pregnant in just 3 months in Wales, 700 during the lockdown, and they were all young people. So they were like, okay, let's now go back to school. And we're not going to get the same approach as the creatives to say, oh, how many people are pregnant in the creative industries? I think what the government should do, and this is something for me I've really tried to emphasize. It is very simple. You don't need to give money to the creative industries, because there would be never enough money to give to the creative industries within this pandemic. What you can do for us is just let us work within the authorized SOPs. Let us work. And I think, not for me only, because I also work with a lot of artists, and I find it very challenging when you see that people are giving up. You know, they are giving up because they cannot survive anymore. They cannot survive on hangouts or handouts. They cannot survive, you know, without any activity, you know. So I think it's really, really important for the government, and I also somehow agree but also disagree with this idea that we need to commit to have a think tank to present a paper with all the defined rules and regulations. We don't need that. I think it's clear there are spaces that are designated for art and productions. They can be visited and approved or disapproved, but at least find some spaces, give them some indication that you can work within these areas, within these numbers, and that will be better than giving people, I don't know, how much can they give? 5,000, 10, 50?
Yes.
I don't know.
I just want to go down to Ras Bissali. What is your assessment? You've heard from Faizo. What is your assessment of the response in relations to COVID-19 situation by our government? Of course, a lot of the communication that is passed out by government during the pandemic, they're using songs. I mean, whoever knew that Bud Black would be such a big resource during COVID-19, using our art of doing things, the message she passed out.
Socialite.
Yes. It's not a form of, yes. But you see, I mean, the posters that were being made, wash your hands, it's designed by an artist. You know, how can we not see that the artists are very serious, creatively very serious? The music that we're singing and the songs that were being written and being put forward are by the artist. This Rasby is here and the one singing for us, and at the same time supplying. So, have they been what is your assessment of this response in relation? Did they understand?
Basically,
like, you know,
when I look at government, to me, communicating about the pandemic, it did well.
Very good.
It did very well, you know, the SOPs, social distancing, masks, washing your hands, you know, keep away from crowds. The message has been quite good. But the only issue is that was their concentration mainly. But now they needed to come to the planning bit, because that is the duty of the government. That's why we elect people. That's why government has departments handling all sorts of issues, human issues. But I don't know whether these departments are working, because their duty is to plan for the people. So what Faizo has talked about, guys coming up, you know, it has been, most of you, like the gyms, the salons, the arcades opening up, it has been under pressure. There is pressure, just pressure, the government. Hey, then government was like, okay. You understand? But there was no actual plan for all these sectors. That now, this is our plan, arcades are going to open up. These are all the plans. The salons will open up. There was no plan.
Yes.
They did it under pressure. So that's where I fault our government. There is no actual plan for its people. So us, the creative industry, inclusive. So guys are just working under pressure. But when you talk about the pandemic handling, it was okay. Communication was clear up to now, up to date. But that's not the main issue.
Yeah.
The after effect is the people. You know, how have you handled the people?
Yeah.
The human resource, because this is where government gets money. You see, so if you don't handle them well, then there is a big problem. That's why you see that we have a new wave of flies in the city. You know that?
Yeah.
This is the border. It's becoming crazy.
Yeah.
We don't know whether some of the creative people are riding the borders. Because you can never know someone is putting on a helmet, so you can't know.
You might find it's baby cool.
Yes.
You know, you just wonder that in a few months,
Yeah.
too many borders on the road.
Yeah.
Where were they before? That means people who have been affected have
And looking
seen
for ways.
Yes, that the easiest way to get quick money is riding a border. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And getting into politics.
That's why I'm getting into politics, because everyone
Which is
sees
not where we want them to go,
Yes.
but because they're pushing
the kind
so
of
much,
money they
yes,
get.
the kind of money they, yes.
They're like, hey, if I get elected, you know, I mean,
This music thing is not working. This event
course.
thing is not working. Yeah.
So that's where our government has to sit back and rethink that they need to plan for their people, not only the creative industry, but all sectors.
Okay.
They should have plans, like 10 years plans or 20 years or 50 years, in case of anything, because you can never know what happens. So anything comes up, you know, oh, we had a plan. Execution, blah, blah, blah. And creating opportunities also.
Yeah.
Because if you kill the opportunities, then that's another big problem to the society. You need to open up the market so that guys can have opportunities too. Because like the creative, it's not only about our material.
Yeah.
You know, because when you create, you get your stuff out, you earn. Then what you've earned, you need also to invest it somewhere else.
Yes.
But are those opportunities available? We need to look at that.
Wow.
Because some artists earned money even before COVID. But do they have any investment? When you look at, say, the property or the manufacturing, the processing, are we there? You know, because now that is the work of the administrators, the government, to come out and let the creative industry understand that, oh, when you earn that kind of money, you can as well invest it here in case this doesn't work out. Because you can't be on the top. Like in the creative, you can't be on the top all the time. There are young people who come up with new ideas. Because society, things
It's evolving,
change.
things are growing.
Lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
So you might be kicked out, but when you have invested somewhere, you're good to go.
Wow.
But these are opportunities which government has to bring out and people understand them.
And I think also, just to add on to Rasby, where some of the, despite the COVID situation, where some of the young creatives have been really also frustrated and impatient is also the conditions that are put around them. Many of them are very creative. They want to create initiatives. They want to help other people. And they want also to have a good livelihoods, but they get very discouraged by the system failing, like, the taxes that are put on every, payments and goods. I don't know how many taxes everyone pays. If you buy a cup like this, the cup maker is taxed, you are taxed, the person putting the logo is taxed. So it's really, really discouraging. And most of these young businesses are just starting. They need some years of sustainability
space to grow. Yeah.
And the government has really failed to create that system where they can offer those incentives for young people. And there are so many creative businesses. If you go to Design Hub, find so many young startups
They are startups and they are really trying to work hard. They are putting in everything. They are, their reserves and whatever. But immediately they start, they are taxed, and then you find them frustrated. They cannot continue because they have nowhere to find this money. They've not already broken through the market. They are just trying to figure out what to do for themselves and also their friends around them, and then they are immediately taxed. So I think, I'm not saying that the creative shouldn't pay taxes, but we need to create some sort of a systematic way of helping them to grow their ideas and businesses, so that when they are at a certain level where they are a bit able to sustain themselves, they are then taxed. I saw this example in Germany, in Berlin. The city of Berlin wanted to encourage young entrepreneurs to come into the city because the city was very much of like you have to be rich to have an apartment. So what they did, they could give you an incentive and a subsidy to come and open up a design shop in the middle of the city for 6 months. You don't pay, you pay like 20% of what you would have paid. And there were so many new businesses that came into the city. After 6 months, they change. And that was also very good because they were like, okay, I have 6 months here, I can make something out of it. I move, I go to another city, 6 months, then another business comes in. So it became a very rotating, nothing was the same every 6 months, and it was really vibrant. But when you look at our cities, like, I don't know, when you go to the malls now, everything is closed. People cannot survive anymore because no one is buying. The rents are very high. Yeah. They have failed to regulate that. Even when they regulate, they cannot enforce those regulations. So you find that you are at the mercy of the landlord. And the landlord, if they close your shop, where are you gonna? Some people have these places, they don't even have contracts or agreements or whatever. So you cannot go to court. You're stuck. So I really think the planning for the people, as Rasby is saying, it's very, very important.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before you continue, I want to add on to the other time I was on social media, Facebook, someone posted that he had visited some country in West Africa, and some Muzungu was talking about Uganda as a very good destination for tourism, and he was wondering why people are not coming. But when you look at the trending events, it's about the creative industry. Ask yourself why people are flocking to Dubai, why people go to Paris or New York. He was asking himself the same question. It's about the creativity. When you go to Dubai, you're like, wow.
There's a lot more
that meets the
eye to see. You want to be fed with something positive, so you can come back.
Wow. In fact, today I was watching Facebook, and there was a clip of these girls who go to work in the Middle East.
Yes.
There was a video, they were landing in Saudi Arabia. So the girls were like, wow, is this Saudi Arabia? When it was at night, and you see the entire city lit, So it's not about, we have our gorillas, it's a bonus, but we need the creative industry.
Yes.
Like Faisal talked about,
art on the wall.
They need to make our cities better. So that when people come in, they're like, wow, like Dubai, or like the Maldives, cities you go to and you're like, yeah, this is the place to be.
But you know what, for me what I find fascinating is that our folks in planning, and they are most of them are the ones who get fascinated more. When they go out, they were like, they take selfies and take
but when they get back here,
when they are back here, they just get into their cars, and then they go. And I find that really sad. I mean, if you are, whatever authority you have, whatever opportunity you have in leadership or in government, what do you think, when you go back home, what do you ask yourself? What have I contributed to this country? What have I, or just disorganizing it? Disorganizing people in traffic, disorganizing the office, what do you go back to and say, today I've really done this for my country? I think that's the question many people need to ask themselves. And when you look at this city, and those cities that you go to all the time, how do you see yourself contributing to making your city also want other people to come to it? This was what Jennifer was really trying all the time. And of course it was not easy, but it's possible. Cities have transformed, you know, look at Dubai itself. It has transformed since, in just 50 years. It has transformed. What is so different? What is so difficult for us? What can we do? And I think it all comes to sitting down and planning for this country. Why other people, the colonialists came here, they planned our city the way they thought they could be, and those plans have not changed.
And they enjoyed it for us.
And they enjoyed it for us. So I think it's really important to look at, this city can be so vibrant.
Yeah.
It can be so vibrant, but it cannot be vibrant when you're leaving out the stakeholders. The creatives are the ones who are going to make these cities vibrant. You have to make sure that they are part and parcel of the processes of planning, of thinking, of investing, and that would give us the opportunity to feel part of. I think I find very few people who are proud of being in Kampala or being born in Kampala. Of course, you can be, I was born in Kampala when you're in Koboko or whatever.
Yes.
But you're not proud of your city. You get what I mean? You're not proud of your city. What could you be proud of? The traffic? The swimming pools whenever it rains? What are you proud of? So I think it is very important that people who are part of this city should start to be proud of it, but they can only be proud of it when there is something that the city is allowing them to offer.
Of course.
Not only just, let them live.
Well, this is the Creative Industry Talk. These guys are on fire this morning, and of course, I agree with them. If a city is not good for other people to come and enjoy, or in fact, for its own citizens, they don't feel it, then how can others come and feel it? Yes. So we've got to be able to think through this process. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Creative Industry will conclude by talking about two things. One, the use of internet to market creative industry, or for creative industry to also be in the space of selling their works and earning from it. Economically, we want to see if that is viable and is possible. We talked a bit last week, but we want to share a little bit more about that. But also look at increasingly governments across the world, what they are doing for their creative industry to be vibrant, to bring people back, because people were stressed. A lot of stress were brought in by COVID-19 because we're in a lockdown. We need the creative industry, we need the art industry, the music, when we're talking about creative industry, it involves so much to come back, to remove the stress so that we can enjoy, and then people will begin to go back to the productive mind, of development across the country. Stay right there, and we want to play for you a song from Susan Keronen so that you can tell that our culture can be exported to the rest of the world. Let's check it out. From my people all the way in Navy and everyone down there. Let's check this out. That is what we are calling making an artist happier. Let's check it out if Susan Keronen can sell to the world.
beli boga chengo be podu iwi gweno tin Uriama biba no Uriama goro nam no Abiba de tucha Uriama biba cha Abiba Ugoro nam Abiba cha Ugoro nam Uwinya biba Uwinyu goro nam Uwinya biba cha Uwinyu goro nam Uwinyu biba. That's the eagle. The eagle is one of the birds that you find in Uganda. It's a strong bird, feeds on only fresh meat. The eagle is one of the birds that I admire. It has a nature of taking time to go up into the mountain for a fast, cleans out its system. It's also known for its great hunting skills, perfect eyesight, and perfect catch. Once it sets its eye on something, a prey, it will dive swiftly and it never misses. Uwinya biba, uwinyu goruna, uwinya biba cha, uwinyu goruna, uwinyu goruna. Now that's the marabou stork. It's a large bird found in the stork family. People love to call it the undertaker. It feeds on everything: metal, stoned, rotten stuff, fresh stuff. Also took time to clean Kampala city. Walks around with a sack of acid hanging below his neck. I love the Uwinyu Gorunam because of his, elegant movement. Walks around with its hands folded behind his back. Kind of amusing. I love it so much, huh? Uwinya biba, Uwinyu Gorunam, Uwinya biba cha, Uwinyu Gorunam, Uwinyu Gweno. Now that's the unfortunate chicken. Now this is a fact. Did you know that the chicken is a very soft-hearted bird? It actually gets depressed, and when it does get depressed, its feathers fall off its body. And this is another fact, that the chicken is a very safety bird in protecting its chicks. When you approach its territory, it will fight for its dear life. I'm very sure most of you as children were scratched by a chicken. But this is another fact, that no single household and no restaurant can survive without a chicken recipe. Is that a true fact? So as the saying goes, we need to live and let live, right? Because that's just like the Abiba and the Ogorunam. We all feed on chicken, but we should take it slow, alright? Uwinya biba, uwinyu gorunam, uwinya biba cha, uwinyu gorunam. Yale chengu pepodu. Ubepodi wikweno, iki. Yale, chango bepodu. Ubepodi wikweno, iki. Yale, chango bepodu. Ubepodi wikweno, iki. Yale, chango bepodu. Ubepodi wikweno, iki.
Welcome back from that break. This is the Creative Industry Talk. Faizo Chiwewa in the studio and Ras Bisali. We are talking about the effect of COVID-19 on the creative industry, but most especially on the events industry, and of course, you know, the investors into the industry as well as partners. Today we are going to talk about partners, and we want to, before we talk about partners, we want to diagnose the handling of the COVID-19 itself from government. And I want to start back to you, Faizo. Increasingly, most governments across the world are easing on COVID-19 lockdowns, and other measures are being put in place to help creative industry go back, to help businesses go back, because they also realize that the money wasn't coming in, taxes are not being collected. What strategies do you recommend that government of Uganda could put in place, you know, for the creative industry to get back on its feet and start functioning well? And Rasby would be answering, should government do support the industry to recover by just giving handouts? Do you believe? Can they give you money for events industry to support?
We've talked about
yeah, so but let Faizo go first.
Yeah, I think, I mean, first of all, of course, we are in different phases of COVID. Some governments are opening up, others are closing again because of the second and the third waves.
Yeah.
And there are countries that are really, really bad off. And I'm very happy, and we as Ugandans are very fortunate to be in this continent, this side of the world, where we have not really been very much affected. Like, you know, you look at Brazil, you look at India now, look at, you know, what has happened to, what happened, I know Italy is now, you know, recovering. America has been affected. Now the new administration is doing well. Whereas I think what we can learn from there, and how have these governments really helped their people to go through the problem, because it wasn't anyone's fault, as we said earlier on, and it has not been easy for anyone, because no one knew that this is going to be like this. But they have really tried to think for their people, to put certain things in places to make sure that people can go through this process without getting, you know, traumatized, I would say. And I'm sure after this, even in Uganda, the only problem I find here, we don't know that we get depressed. And
because some are doing very well, others are not. So I never tend to look at the person in downtown or that Rasby is stuck, is riding the bicycle because these event companies are working. Yes,
but people get very depressed, and we're going to get very many post-COVID depressions, because, and even now people are in, lots of people are in depression because things are not working. I think what government needs to do, not only for the creative arts, as we've talked about it earlier with Rasby, I think it's also important to use this time to think and plan for its people. And not only the creatives, but also other sectors, the health, the education, what is happening. Like when you drive all the way to Karamoja, and then the government tells you, oh, schools are going to open with SOPs. And then you find this school in
upcountry school
in Budaka.
Yes.
You look at it and you be like, seriously, what SOPs? You know, what are the SOPs going to help this school? You know what I mean? So it's also important, and it's not because we have to, they have to pay for everything, but they can also create partnerships. As we say, we are talking about partnerships. They can create partnerships, work with some, you know, private sector, work with people who are interested in education. Maybe the government is not the one that is able to do all these investments, but you can give people incentives. And the way education has itself has given many people, investors, incentive, because they know when you build a school, you don't even need to advertise. Kids will come. Parents will bring their children, because we give birth every day. But I think it's also important that government, as this process has gone, to go around the country, have an assessment. I'm telling you, most of the people who do planning, they don't even know, they don't even visit the country. They don't know, you know, like, I mean, they leave it to their structures, the municipalities, but you need to go around the country and say, how can I make change here? When you drive to Kitgum, you know, you could see such beautiful land. And you could do so much if you plan that land with the people, with the communities, and tell them, how can we help to develop? How can we bring services closer to you? How can we make sure that we don't get affected by them? How can we close this gap of all these kids that get on the bus and flock Kampala? to beg. How can we, there are so many things that government can do, and they could use this period because it's given us a much more wider perspective on what can happen when things go worse, and they could plan for their country better.
Well, thank you very much, Faisal. Russ B, I ask you a question. What should government do to support the industry to recover? I mean, what we hear most of the time is that, oh, there's a subsidy coming for the creative industry. Now, you are an investor into this industry we're talking about. You're not just a creative mind, but you're also an investor like Faisal. I mean, how much money can government give you to subsidize, or how much handout can you receive to compensate for the 1.5 years you've been? Is that the best strategy, or what are the best, what in your view as an investor, what would be the best way government can help you to support you as an event supplier for your business to get back on the stage?
Of course, for now, if government says, hey, this is a handout to me, I'll be happy. Yeah. But it's not a solution. It's not a solution to my business or my well-being. It's not a permanent solution. You see? The best way, as we've talked before, is planning. Because when you look at our government, what I've, I think, noticed, our planners are asleep. You know, when you look at the pandemic, well, to me, it hasn't, like Faisal said, when you look at other countries, the impact was so huge. But when you look at Uganda, it wasn't that much. So government would have used that to research and understand why is COVID, why hasn't COVID impacted on us that much? Because the death rate, we can't compare it to Spain or Italy or India or Brazil. So they would say, oh, okay, COVID is not that a threat. It's a threat, but when you look at us as Ugandans, the impact is very low. So that would have been a step ahead.
But they will say it is this strategy that is managing that one.
No, you see, you see the problem, we work on a script. When someone gives you a script, you also use that same one. Oh, we have to do this, or we have to do this. Because that's why they let Magufuli. They gave him a script, but it was like, no, it can't work here. We need to create our own script. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even if I give ideas on how we can get back on our feet and work, when the handlers, the government, the main planners are not thinking about it, it's a waste. So government has to wake up fast. Then we can also say yes. Then we present our ideas. But even if I mention them, they won't help. So government has to come. We are all stakeholders in this country. We are citizens. So they should engage us. We have planning departments, a planning board, whatever. They should invite us, we present our ideas, and see how we can move on.
Okay.
However much I present good ideas here, when the handlers are somewhere else thinking about politics and how they can stay in power, you know, it can't help. So the best way is government to wake up, get on its feet, engage us, the people, we present our ideas. But we've talked about this. The only way the industry can get back to the feet is allowing us to work under the SOPs.
Whatever circumstances.
And let me tell you, by the way, even before COVID, the most organized industry was the creative industry. You look at shows, Faisal can testify. You know, when you go to a concert, everything is in place. Security, how people are going to come in, emergency exits. You know, all this, we used to plan it. We were the most organized industry. So, I don't know what's happening there. Someone is just doesn't think about the industry, or they want to kill the industry completely. Or they think, these ones don't contribute anything to society. But
have you been paying taxes though? You might be talking here. The reason could maybe they are slow because the creative industry have not been paying.
I have a car. I have a car.
No, but I have a TIN number.
Yes,
so
yes,
if I have a TIN number,
I pay everything. Yes. I bring in, I pay.
Yes.
The services I provide, I earn money, I pay.
Yes.
But right now I can't pay. I can't even pay for a trading license. Because they send me messages, due, but I'm like, I'm not working. So then the other issue, where should I, one issue I noticed here.
So you can imagine how many people are like Rasby.
Where should I complain?
Yeah.
Where should I take my complaint?
Yeah.
That is another issue. If I have a good plan, where do I take it?
Yeah.
The other time you're saying guys are presenting in State House, how can I access? Is there a desk where we can go and present?
But should everything go to State House? That's another thing.
And this is the thing I've been talking about.
But there is I want to say something, Rasby, in fact, there, as we hasten to the close of the show. There's a document that was sent outside called the Final Creative Economy Action Plan, March 2016. It was updated in 2016, 2015, 2016. It was updated in 2019, 2020 when COVID came into action. And this is Minister of Labor, Gender and Social Development presented this. And I see some action plans here. Under that, there was Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Copyright. That's the document. Now, when you look at the forward of this document, it talks about the National, Action Plan on Culture and Creative Industry of Uganda is a result of the creative made by His Excellency the President to establish and raise awareness of the economic value of creative industry in the country. This was during the third, investment round table, meeting of 2011. The action plan is also responsive to Uganda's Vision 2040 and National Development Plan 2010, 2011, 2014, 2015, which emphasizes the strengthening of culture and creative industries so that they can contribute significantly to Uganda's development.
It's a very nice document.
Yes, you're telling me that your mind was not picked on this document because
no, but I think
2011. When did we have another rap?
I think it's important. It shows
when did we have another rap?
Well, I don't know.
Was it 2011 when we had our president sang and he finally saw that it is good to be a musician because he enjoyed the moment?
No,
yes.
I think what happens, it clearly shows you that these things happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of money, I think UNESCO helped them to do all these things.
Yes.
But they are just presented, and they don't mean anything to the people who are in policy and power.
Yeah.
Because if they meant anything, this document was in 2016, before 4 years before COVID.
Yes.
So what was done?
When COVID came, it was amended in 2019.
Exactly, 2019, it was amended. Yeah. So if it was really something serious that they considered as a serious document that they want to invest or do whatever in this economy, what have they done between March 2020 up to, are we in April?
Yes.
Up to April. What have they done? So it means, it shows you that these things are done and no one cares about them. They just present them, they have nice samosas and tea, and then they go home. So I think, and I don't mean they don't do their job. Yeah. Of course they do, they get paid. But the challenge of them really, having the will, not only the political will, but also the personal will to move these things further is what is really lacking. There's a lot of backbiting. Why is he pushing this document? What is in for them?
Yes.
You hear those conversations in the corridors.
Yes.
Why do they want us to invest in the creative industry? And then you find the person who is writing is the one wanting to start up a studio, a TV station, because he thinks that's where the investment is going to go. That is not good for anyone. It's not good for industry. It's not good for the country. When we are thinking about these things, like we do, when we are like at Baimba, what we do when we are planning, we plan for the sector. We are not planning for Pfizer. We are not planning for Rasby only. We are planning for the sector. So we need these people to start planning for the country, plan for the industry, and say we do the things in good faith because we want our country to go somewhere, not just to do them because you have something in for you. And that's what is always happening. And
that
it's really wrong, and it's not going to take us anywhere, because those egos, if they don't stop, we cannot move this country forward. If we are doing things because there is something in for us, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Wow, Rasby, so you've had the document and you've heard Faisal has talked about it. I also want to say that the overall goal of the plan is to structure and formalize the creative industries in Uganda so that they are enabled to contribute to, one, the national economy through generation of revenue and balance of trade through exports of creative goods and services, employment creation for Ugandans, and especially for the youth. Okay, boosting of local and international tourism and preservation of Uganda's tangible and intangible heritage. The culture, art and culture, the creative industry, this is your thing. This is your thing they're talking about here.
Yeah, but
so how come that you're saying that you are not aware?
Aware of what?
They are saying that they already planned these things.
This thing is on paper. It's you showing it to me. When I tell you guys, I know many organizations which have such good stuff on paper under their desks.
Yes.
But when you get on the ground, nothing.
So we're talking about partnership here. There is a partner being you and government, a public-private partnership.
But how can we know? Because it's the government to come to us and lay out, this is the opportunities we have for you. You understand? Then we take them up. But no one comes out to present this, that, oh, the industry, we have this opportunity for you. You talked about exporting. Because when you look at government, it has to empower. That's why we normally praise Nigerian artists or artists from Ivory Coast or Senegal. They're more popular in the world than us in the East here. Why? Ask yourself. Governments there, organizations, export. Even when you look at sports, West African footballers are more popular than us here. Our governments don't support. You know, when we look at marketing, government thinks of paying CNN $1 million. But you see, you can advertise for free. If you sponsor, say, invest in sports, and the football team goes to play out, you get free advertisement. All TVs in the world are showing Uganda Cranes playing. That is free advertising. You haven't invested even a single coin paying those TVs. But the best way is to invest in the industry back home. I give an example. I saw mamas coming up. And I was also asking myself, what is this? Because when we are cycling, we normally depart from the monument. And I was seeing events there every day.
A creative person asking, what is this?
Every Sunday I see mamas, I'm like, oh, maybe, I don't know what is happening. Here you see lights, you know, well painted. Then on TV, all of a sudden I say, hey, these are words coming up. How are they helping the industry to grow? Why don't you get that money investing to boost the local industry so that they get there? Then the mamas come and host the event here without even government spending a single coin. You see what I mean? So this issue of marketing is very important, export. You get what I mean?
Yes.
When you look at, you talked about how we can promote our stuff on the internet. It's costly. How will the creative person, the people Faisal is talking about, fund this? So there has to be incentives coming up from government, because government is the #1 stakeholder. It owns everything.
But who regulates? But who is the government? Who is the government? Who is the government?
We know what government is.
Yes, we are part of government, but listen, that's why we elect leaders to represent us. And they are the ones who let us down. So when you elect someone in the company, they are responsible for whatever comes up. So now the people in the government the ones we elect, the ones then they appoint, they are responsible for all of this. They need to set up systems, proper systems, incentives, so that we can utilize them and push our staff out there, because that's the only way we can get in more income. When you talked about tourism in this document, how will people come to tour Uganda? They need to know about it. How are they going to know about it? The best way is through the arts. That's how we've known countries.
In fact, Bayemba, when we played that video from Bayemba, we found out that all of these guys, I remember that Muzungu Kichwa saying that, man, this is like none other country I have been to in this festival.
How would he have known it?
Yes, through music, art and culture.
No, but I think also to add on to what Rasby is saying, you know, when you look at the investment in internet, I think, of course, some people took advantage of it when COVID started and they really benefited from it. But then, whereas they could be building onto those audiences that they build, then it becomes blocked. So I didn't even know, because I'm not on social media anymore, but I didn't even know that you need to use VPN to access Facebook today.
No, that was our creation.
But why?
It was a condition.
You know, but there's
it was not a condition by government. We had to create because it was blocked.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That, so if you want the creatives, like the president say that, you know, let them use online platforms to perform.
To market
Yet the platforms are blocked. Then, I mean, you're really like sending someone from fire to what? So I really think it's not really a problem of the people. It's also, as Rasby, the planning, give people incentives. And the other thing I wanted to say about these documents is, you know, it's even very clear that there's nothing that government wants to put into this whole process, but it wants to get out of it, to get something out of it, more actually out of it. They start with impacting the economy from the creatives. They start with trade, who benefits from trade. Is it the government taxes, gets more? But they're not telling you anything they are going to do for the industry to be able to get to the level of trading.
To enable government to collect that kind of money.
Because you need to produce.
You need to invest.
You can't feed the cow.
Yeah,
the cow
you can't make a cow. Unless if it's the other one, the big one that was $100,000. I think it's
those were goats.
Goats.
Those are goats. Yes.
So we are not goats. We need to be invested in. The industry needs to be invested in. I think these planners need also to think. Whereas, for me, I've been very, very surprised that most of the regulations and policies that have been developed are always about pushing the people backwards, not bringing them on the table. And I don't understand why. Because if your government, and most of the time, the people who are, these are some of the young people that they have just come out from Makerere, they know the problem, but because they have a secured job, they think, okay, how can we make money from the film industry? Let's tax them. Let's make sure that they pay for the film before it screens. How can you tell me that for me to show a film at a festival, I have to pay you $150? And have you calculated, do you know how much $150 is in Ugandan shillings? How many people do I need? No, let's be serious. The Media Council says if you want to show a foreign film here at a film festival, you have to pay $150. How much is that in Uganda shillings? Do you know how many people I need to pay for a ticket for me to get $150 for one film? And then put on the specs that I've hired, the equipment. So I'm like, are you thinking? How can you charge someone $150 for one film when you know that someone cannot pay even more than 10,000 shillings to watch a film at Cineplex? Yeah. So these are the things that they put. They don't think. They don't have, I don't know what theory or methodology they use to put up these things. And for me, I find it saddening. You're not helping me. I pay for the permit to have the film festival. I pay for the equipment that is going to be. I pay for the film that you want to be. So how do you want me just to pay? And what are you giving me?
Of course, you're going to crash down. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's important that they need to assess everything that they put in place. They need to be able that even if you're going to get 100 shillings from the industry or 100 million, how much are you putting back in that industry?
Wow.
One thing I've noticed.
Well, parting shots, yes.
I've noticed about our handlers.
Yeah.
They sit in the boardroom and then they come up with their decisions. They think and they just come up with overrated decisions without coming back, because I've always talked about it. Before you make any decision, get to the stakeholders. Consult with them. Because when you look at making a film, don't just look at the finished product. Let's get to the backstage and know what this person has gone through to put this film you want to charge $150 to be shown. How he has invested, how he has come up with that product to be on the screen. These guys have to leave their comfort zones, get to the ground. I've been talking about this. The other day I was invited by the National Planning Board. They had a conference, small conference at some hotel downtown. We were talking about the non-motorized transport in Kampala.
This is because you made it as a
they saw me riding all the time, so they invited
so now
me.
they saw him as a...
So that I can present to them what I go through cycling in Kampala. Guys had very good proposals on projectors. I'm like, hey, this is nice. Where are you on the ground? These are the boardroom decisions I'm talking about. Many of our guys are into the comfort zone. Like Faizo said, they get a job. And it's a disease, it's a syndrome eating up even the young people who get employment in government. Because they get into a system which already exists. So they're like, now what can I do? They also get eaten up by the corruption and whatever. They think about themselves and stealing money. So this is, the entire system has to be overhauled. I don't know what our handlers are thinking. We need to overhaul the entire system so that we sit down and restart the entire system. Because it's a system, it's a whole process. It's not about me or Faiz or you. You know, everyone now is there on their own. So we need to get back on the table as government. The handlers, our administrators get to ask the people. We sit, they consult and get good ideas. Because that's why I'm giving you that example of the bicycle. How can you put lanes downtown, yet you know all the hawkers
at downtown?
Then how do you expect me to get there? I stay in Chanja. You haven't created a bicycle lane in Chanja. Then you create it on Namirembe Road. How do you expect me to ride from Chanja, from Mukono, to get there? Why don't you first work on the other side so that there is a lane to bring me to town? There is no lane. Then
maybe this is created for only those who live within.
This is the confusion in the boardroom.
I think that's the point. Like what he's talking about, that you cannot create a bicycle lane on Kampala Road. How do people get to that bicycle lane? You come with your bicycle carrying it, and then when you reach there, then you put that cycle. I think that's it's a very interesting.
Well, guys, we have come to the end of the Creative Industry Talk this week. This Tuesday has been really great having you, Ras Bisali. And Faizo, your parting shot in just under a minute. What is our take home today from this topic?
I think, as we've been saying, it's very important that we all think around when we are planning for our for whatever we are planning. We need to plan for the people and not to put our interests or our egos, our first selves first, but the country, because it's the only way we can develop. It's the only way we can really all be happy. And I really want to see one day when people are proud of where they are coming from. I don't see people wearing t-shirts like I love Kampala. The way we buy t-shirts and say I love New York, I love Barcelona. When you find it more, you fight for it because you've never been there, but you fight for. Why don't we also start being as people coming as I love Kampala? And what do you love about it when you can defend it?
Wow. Rasbi, how do we get you to start supplying events so that we can start being happier than just riding these bicycles?
Even before I get to that, my advice to my fellow guys out there is COVID has taught me that you don't keep your egg in one basket. If it's in one basket, make sure there are holes where you can, this side and this side.
Yes,
because now we are stuck in that basket.
Yes, yes.
So you're just there. So I think it's time for us to rethink that when you have your egg in that basket, it's well protected, producing well. Make sure there are different outlets. In case of anything, you're like, aha, this can let me
This
out,
egg
this
can
can
go
let
out,
me out,
yes.
this can get me out, and I survive. This is a very big lesson to learn. That's it.
Well, you've heard it from Ras Bissali right there, and you've heard it from Faisal. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. We have to bonga and say we are going today. You see, until next week, creative industry, we are not taking any comments or questions today because this topic has been really hot, and we will be back, like Schwarzenegger said, on the creative industry talk. Faisal, Eddie Okela, and Ras Bissali signing out until next week. Peace.
My name is Faisal Chiwewa. I am the founder and the artistic director of Bayimba. Welcome to this year's edition of Doa Doa 2021. As you're all aware, we skipped our 8th edition to the 9th. Don't blame us, the world did skip a year, and so did we. Since 2008, we have organized festivals, trained stakeholders, and championed a performing arts market that has helped local artists to level with the rest of the world and the region. That's how Bayimba has contributed to the vibrant arts sector in Uganda. This edition of Doa Doa is thought to be a special one, quite different from the previous years. We are running it for 3 months, from May to July. Once a week, we'll host a speaker and one artist for 30 minutes. We are going to learn everything we can about them. Curated to give a glimpse of the performing arts industry, starting from right here, the future space for the Bayimba Center for Visual and Performing Arts on Lunkulo Island, to the Reykjavik Opera House in Iceland, India, Chile, USA, and South Africa. We are going to meet virtually with our friends, some of the most amazing game changers from around the world. They are going to tell us about their spaces, their initiatives, the opportunities, and the possibilities. We thought this edition of Doa Doa would take us around the world, and we think we owe our audience what others have got to offer, and hopefully they could be inspired. I'm very grateful to introduce you to our speakers. This edition of Doa Doa has been really getting to know our speakers, and we took it to be a personal invitation. And I would like to introduce you to Mr. Amitava from India.
Namaskar. My name is Amitava Bhattacharya. I'm in Calcutta, India. A social entrepreneur. 31 years of experience, education-wise, an engineer passed out of IIT Kharagpur, and Gurukul Chevening scholar from London School of Economics. 10 years I was in software, returned from Silicon Valley, US in 99, and then started banglanatak.com. Social enterprise focusing on culture and development, how the rural traditional culture can alleviate people out of poverty, how it can move towards an inclusive development. And slowly, with time, in 20 years, what we see is that when pride and recognition returns and when the socio-economic gain happens in traditional artistic communities, then they come forward, participate in development, and the village, the artist, and the art form get vibrant. The art form gets safeguarded. The artists are on their own. And overall, it's really a holistic development. With this background, let me go through a brief journey with you. I'll start with North Bengal and then come to the South Bengal. The city of Kolkata, which was the capital in the British days, but now capital of West Bengal. And as you know a little bit of history, that in 1947, when India got independence, that time, in the name of religion, India and Pakistan, two countries were born. Pakistan was born and Pakistan got separated from India. And that time, two states which were divided, one is West Bengal, Bangladesh, which is Bangladesh was part of Pakistan, used to be known as East Pakistan and then became Bangladesh in 1971. And another state which got impacted is Punjab. But coming to Bengal, we share many of the cultures, the language with Bangladesh because it's our neighboring space. We were together, but now we are separated. Starting North Bengal, we get Bhawaiya, the music of North Bengal. It's a wonderful music. It's a music of daily lifestyle. It's a music talking about the essence of daily life. When husbands go out to work, women wait anxiously when their husbands are coming back, when they're returning. When there is flood, what is the disaster? What is the trauma people go through? All these are part of Bhawaiya. There are almost 4,000 practicing Bhawaiya singers in Alipurduar, Jalpaiguri, Kuch Bihar districts. These are all, you can say, forest fringe areas and called duars. We have duars and hills in North Bengal. Coming to hills, the Darjeeling, Kalimpong, these are basically the Himalayas, foothills, and there are 16 communities, the indigenous communities which have their own traditional art and culture, and they have their lovely music too, and the indigenous instruments and everything. When we come to middle of Bengal, we see the music has changed. There, the primary music, we see the baul music. The bauls of Bengal, one can say, is the soul of Bengal. Now, bauls basically, unlike other folk music, baul is not a lifestyle music. It is a music with philosophy. It is not a religious music, but it is a spiritual music. It talks about crossing the barrier. It talks about no barrier of religion, no barrier of caste, class. It talks about respect our opinion, include all, and it's a music of brotherhood. To me, it is a music of democracy, it is a music of socialism, and music of mankind, celebrating the pluralism and cultural diversity. There are almost 2,300 practicing bauls in 5 districts of Bengal, in the middle of Bengal: Nadia, Murshidabad, Birbhum, Bardhaman and Bankura. If I come to south of Bengal, we see Bhatiali, the music of river, music of boating. And there, again, it's a lifestyle music. Your boat travels, you don't know when they will come back. The enjoyment and the turmoil with the nature. And that is exactly the Bhatiali music. There are almost about 100 Bhatiali singers. With the motorized boat, now you don't get to hear that music in the boat anymore. But the community still practices, enjoys, and leaves it at its leisure time. Coming to the west of West Bengal, which is primarily again a forest fringe areas and also the indigenous people again, the Santals and other indigenous people. There you get to see the Jhumur, the music, the song and dance. And also it's used to be known as Chotanagpur later. And also we see the Chow dance, the mass dance. In 2011, UNESCO accredited that with the Masterpiece Heritage of the World. So, and even Baul got it in 2008. It was a shared heritage between Bangladesh and India. More or less, one can actually talk about these are the musical. And from the handicraft side and the other culture side, I'll say Dokra, which is the metal. That's a very traditional space that few artists, they live in Bardhaman, Bankura. That's one of the primary one. Patachitra, the scroll painters, they still use natural color. That's the beauty. There were 8 artists in 2004. Now there are 352 artists. I think that's something is very essential to understand that this is... Now, what is our initiative? Our initiative, as I said, that we are primarily focused on how to save these traditional art forms, but saving is not by us, rather by the community. So that means how to empower these communities to come forward with their traditional art and culture. And when we do that, so what we do? When we go to a community, we try to build their capacity, we link them directly to the market. Directly, it is a very important word, so that there is no one in between. And then thirdly, we do a lot of exchange collaboration, and then we plant a village festival in their villages, celebrating their art and culture, and it should be calendarized. And that's how since 2004 we started working, but the village festivals we started planting in 2010. And till 2020 February, we did all the things, then onwards, the corona situation took over worldwide, so we couldn't host that. Now, these are, you can say, the more or less the significance, and is that these are significant art forms, and instrument-wise, Dotara is a very, very important instrument in Bengal. Of course, we have the bamboo flute and the dhol, and the city of Calcutta, which got influenced by all the music and everything, and also the Tagore's songs are a big part, because Rabindranath Tagore, the first non-European Nobel laureate, is part and parcel of our culture, and his influence on our part is quite noteworthy, really. It's a place, Kolkata is a place of culture, including music, poetry, film, everything, and we really appreciate the contribution of those people in our life. Calcutta is a very socialist in nature. Bengal overall, it's a very left orientation, and because of again our history, Chaitanya in the Bhakti Cult movement, he talked about remove the caste religion rather come forward. It's again from where Baul got influenced. So it's a very orientation is a little different than other parts of, I'll say, India. And one very important part, I will say, the collaboration. Because that's really, because historically, when Gandhiji in India spoke about nationalism, Rabindranath Tagore talked about universalism. So that theory actually influenced Bengalis, Calcuttans very well. So we, following the path of that, we believe in universalism. So since 2009, we have been hosting collaborations, and we invite international musicians, artists, designers, and to work with we host the local part, and they do come. I think more than 300 artists have, a little more than that, because we have been hosting our flagship festival, Sur Jahan, since 2011. So 10 years, and this 10 years, 5 to 6 bands each. So overall, I think we brought, other than Sur Jahan, we did a lot of collaborations. So maybe 355 to 400 artists have come. Even our artists have traveled abroad. I want to request all the listeners that please do take this as a very important opportunity. Come to India. We work primarily in West Bengal, Western Rajasthan, the desert, where there are beautiful musicians and art forms, traditional art forms, and come to Goa. So these 3 places will be happy to host collaborations, and I'm confident if you come, we will be good hosts. You will be enjoying collaborating with our artists, and you will be creating a new relationship, which I'm sure where you will learn, they will learn, and both of you will co-create, and rights will remain with both of you, and we can be a very positive catalyst in ensuring that. So with this small note, my urge, my request to all of you, invitation to all of you, that please do keep in touch and check our sites. We give always the calls: www.banglanatak.com, www.bncmusical.co.in. Now there are many sites, but these 2 will be helpful. And come forward, stay with us, meet the other traditional masters, interact with them, learn new things, co-create, enjoy India's warmth, India's creativity, and I'm sure that is going to be a good way forward, and we want to learn from you too. That's a very, very important part. And one more thing is that our festival, which after 2020 February we could not hold, let's hope that once COVID goes away, we will be able to revive that. Now, the unique part of our organization, we have never taken donation in 21 years, and so we are not driven by any agenda. The agenda is created by us. An entrepreneur or any business makes the profit if they can, and takes the profit to the owners. A social enterprise does the profit if possible, and then shares it with the communities. And that's a very important definition and participative approach that we have. Music is our passion, because we feel that with creativity, innovation, and music, we will be helping, we will be working, we will be together, we shall overcome, and we can be part of a much more peaceful world than we are in today. It is a journey not of mine, it is a journey of ours, and I invite to be a part of this journey. Thank you.
As you've heard from our speaker, I would now like to introduce you to the Artist of the Week. This year, we really try to focus on getting to know the artist. And I would like to introduce you this week, the Entenga musical drums from the central Buganda.
My name is James Isabiri. I am a doctor of music education. I graduated in April 2019 in a doctor of music education at Oakland University, Rochester, Michigan, in the United States. Ntenga music is actually publicly known to be royal music that is performed in the palace and for the Kabaka, or if you might wish, king of Buganda Kingdom.
Amanya gange zedi Livingstone musisi mukalazi. Mukalazi lyakika musisi banzala musisi ayita. Ngombe eyo Ntenga eyo yajja ne Kabaka Kyabaggu ng'ava Essese. Kakaba waliwo abazimukubira ng'ali Ssese. Nazimunyumira najja nazo mu Buganda.
My full name is Professor Sempeke John. When I start talking about music, I don't want to stop because it has made me who I am. I started playing music when I was 9 years old because my dad and had a group, and the group is still existing. It's called Aboluganda Kwagalana, which he started in 1945, and up to today, I'm still learning it, although he passed away.
As a student of music when I was growing up, I read about it. And I was interested to know what it is. Then at one point I saw in a book that was written by Edward Galabuzimukasa, Anthology of Ugandan Musical Instruments, and I found a picture of a line of drums with the people holding the sticks that are carved, and that I had never seen in Busoga. So I thought I should listen to this music somehow.
Ndi musiige mu lubiri lwa Ssaabasajja Kabaka. Nasiigibwa mu mwaka gwa 58 mu lubiri ebaamunaanika. Kati Entenga ezo zaaliyo. Kati bwe baazikubanga ne zinnyumira. Ne njagala okugenda abazikuba ndabe bakuba. Naye kati njegenjege ne kinkwata ng'omwana ne njigirawo.
They are royal 12-tuned drums, plus 3 of them, which makes them 15. They are played rarely in the palace, and especially for the king. Once you hear Ntenga playing, then the king is in the palace.
My dialect alone connects me to these drums and forces me to find out more about them. Could they be connected to my own, heritage, to my ethnic society? And in the process of working with Musisi, he actually kept on insisting that Ntenga came from Busoga. It was brought by one of the early kings of Buganda.
Buli kika mu lubiri kirimu engoma zikikuba. Abakondeere, abaki, kati ekika ekyo kya Lugave. Ab'Olugave be bannannyini engoma ezo. Ne bakuba engoma ezo nga mujaguzo biki biki. Era Kawuula yatwala engoma ezo mujaguzo, Entenga, byonna yabizingiramu. Za buwangwa.
I contacted a friend who happens to be a director of Bayimba. He's called Faizo Chiwewa. Those of us who might know him. I said, he actually talked to me that, James, I'm having an event of Doa Doa, which I had, known of even years before. And I said, yes, talk about Doa Doa. I have something that would be exciting. We have revived the King's Ntenga music, but I doubt that I even have a chance to meet the king. First of all, I'm from Busoga. How do I go through the processes? And I'm a teacher. Really, I'm focused on this music more than I'm focused on other big things, including the politics of our cultures and our nation and things like that. I want to be a simple citizen who is free to do my things. And so he was so receptive, and we walked through the budget and said, I will give the money. It was a bit high from my thinking. And so they came out to perform at Doa Doa in the National Theatre. They were actually playing opening act of the Doa Doa event. And so somehow this made it known that actually there are some Entenga players. Following that Doa Doa event, there was a coronation ceremony for the king. And some Baganda leaders, Baganda kingdom leaders said, by the way, there were Entenga performers in Doa Doa. We have to find them.
Each tribe has got its own culture. And so these are for, Buganda. And we are related a little bit with Basoga.
The king actually recognized that the Entenga playing that he was looking at was much the same as the Entenga playing he had seen played in the palace for when his father was the king. He actually said, I want to thank the Entenga players because they played the music in exactly the same way as those Entenga players who played in the palace those days.
Ekivuga ekyo kyekusifu mu lubiri lwa Kabaka yabwe yakitumyanga nekimuvugira ng'ennaku emukutte oba nga ayagala okusanyuka nagamba nkubira engoma Ntenga. Akutali bivuga birala naye ng'ekyo kyokka kyekusifu kyalinga n'amaju watwekobe.
Going back to look at this music and what makes it really unique, for me it is the interlockingness of these skins. And by the way, when it plays and you're very near, you may not really feel the beauty of the music. You have to stand a distance away and you hear it like you're listening to something on a hill. And then you say, wow, this is amazing.
Most of the royal musical instruments are perishing. I wouldn't like to die before these are being implemented back in the palace, because the Entenga should be in the palace and should be there. We are going, but the problem.com is causing a lot of problems, When you tell someone, can you play, they say, no, I cannot play the big, instead of calling them drums, they say, I don't want to play the bigoma.
This music has cultural significance in Uganda, context in which this music was birthed. So in revitalizing this music expression, the intention is not to sell it to the world as me. But I have had challenges with the young people who learned the music. One of them actually said one day, but I am the music. So why did he say that? He said it because I was trying to suggest that we keep within the confines of the cultural institutions that claim responsibility of this expression. My argument has and still continues to be that the kingdom is interested in this cultural expression, and I really need to respect the kingdom.
I'm a believer. So wherever I go, I worship, okay? I'm happy, like my brother Kabuza. If you find us playing the spiritual songs on a xylophone, if you are tempted, you can worship on a xylophone. Not only me, with friends like Okirol and we got our queer name, which we call ourselves, but I won't say it. But it was jokingly when we say, come on, Mr. Let's play, and then we kick it off.
Cultures don't die sometimes. They can only be held a little bit, but as long as they are spirit, they find their way back into the domain of existence. I think I would like to continue my contribution to the heritage of this world. The diversity of mankind is the beauty of this planet. And in my view, if the different cultural expressions are given a vent to exist within their power and into the public domain, I think we have a better world. We have a world where we understand one another. It is these differences which help us to see who we are. And it is the same differences which help us to resolve and come to an understanding.
I'm happy because I invented something which took a long time. You know, when presidents or whatever other people comes, they think when we talk of gun salutes. But for us, I invented something called the drum salute for the king. You know, on every year which he adds up when he's still alive, that's the rhythm we play. Because last time was 27 years and we banged 27 drum salute.
My name is James Isabire. I would like to invite all of you in every corner of the world to come and enjoy Ntenga music of the Baganda people during this Doa Doa 2021.
Thank you so much for joining this week's show, Doa Doa 2021. I hope you had some fun and got some inspiration. If you have any comment, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave your comment, or our Facebook page, Twitter or Instagram. We'll definitely get back to you. We are very grateful, and until next week, I remain your host, Faizo Kiwewa from Bayimba and the Doa Doa team. Keep it Doa Doa 2021.